Afternoon. This is the third segment of Ask District Finance, and we're looking at Concur, my very favorite topic. And I know for many of you, it may be the bane of your existence, and I do understand completely. So I have two experts in Treasury and in finance. Chris Scavani, who has a very long history with the banking industry, from being within the banks to running the Treasury for her club since 2005. And she has some really fantastic insight into managing money and how best to build your funds in such a way that you can pay for things that you need to get reimbursed for. And Michelle Pitacolis, who is the current treasurer of Heart to Heart and Leaders Worldwide, who's relatively new at this, but has a real sense for what is it that the clubs need to know and how do we spend our money in such a way that we're in compliance with Toastmasters International. So with that, ladies, ask away.
Okay, so Linda, the first question I have is, what is Concur and what does the treasurer need to do to get set up with the system?
Okay, actually pretty interesting. Concur is an expense reimbursement system. It's actually put on by the SAP company. It's used worldwide. I mean, the one fun thing is when you Google Concur and SAP, you get a whole laundry list of companies that are using it. Toastmasters uses it primarily as an easy, effortless digital way of reimbursing for expenses that are paid out for Toastmasters. So for example, with our district, we have things like our MailChimp account, we have our website, we have our storage space. All of those items are paid for through Concur, and it's an easy, effortless way to submit your receipt, have the district finance officer in this case look at it, approve it, click I approve, and that automatically goes into the system to be reimbursed back to your checking account. Now, the critical thing is you need to set up your credentials as a member of Concur. What we have on the district website is on the far right-hand side, it says District Tools, and you look down and there's one that says Get Reimbursement. You click on that, and it's a form that you fill out that basically gives me information about who you are, what your member number is, your email address, and that kind of thing. I then get that as part of a report, and I send it on to TI. And Toastmasters International actually sets up your credentials that allows you to get into the Concur system and then to do the work that needs to be done. It usually takes them about a week, but if they're behind in anything else, like when we were doing budgets, I had huge numbers of people because they were going through TLIs, and they were able to get them done, but it wasn't in a very quick way. And I totally understand, because budget season is a tremendous burden on Toastmasters International with the number of clubs that are submitting budgets. Anyways, now it's faster. For the most part, they do it over the weekend, and you should be seeing it the following week. I then send you a notification that says your credentials have been approved. You need to log in, and I give you the login information. And then at that point, you can set up your account. The key thing here is to set it up with the bank account that you want the money to be reimbursed to. Hopefully that's not your personal account, but rather the club's account. So that
I hope so.
Yeah, hope so. That it is going back to Toastmasters.
So can more than one person be designated on Concur? So for instance, I'm the treasurer, I would submit the reports to you for reimbursement. Would the president also be available to set up their own account, or would it be done for my entire Toastmaster group?
That's an interesting question. The more interesting question I got was, if I'm the treasurer of 2 or more clubs, can I have more than one Concur account? The answer to that is no. The system does not understand that. Everything runs off of your Toastmasters ID number. So the answer is no, you can't do that. I would imagine that you could have your president also on it, but I would not advise it. I would advise the central person who has responsibility for Concur be the treasurer.
Okay, so Linda, that begs the question, what are we going to do? I'm the treasurer of Heart to Heart, and I am the treasurer of Leaders Worldwide. I have a Concur account for Heart to Heart. How do I get a Concur account for Leaders Worldwide, since I'm the same person?
This is the place where your president or someone else can be the designated representative for Concur for that club. For example, and you can't give it to me because I'm a district finance officer, so I already have a Concur account as well.
Oh,
yeah. So, so you'd have to choose someone else to do that. It could be your president. Then the question is, does the president give you his or her credentials so that you as the treasurer can manage the Concur account? And that would be something for you to work out between the two of you.
okay. Thank you.
You're
Then I
welcome.
have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, officers, with the exception of myself presently, change every year. So will their Concur account remain even though they're not an officer of the club anymore?
Technically, that Concur account belongs to you. It belongs to that Toastmasters ID, so your member number. I have to be honest, I have not asked what happens when we turn officers over. Do you still maintain your credentials? And the next treasurer then gets new credentials for the club and for the checking account. That is something I have not explored because I'm not ready for that yet.
You haven't had to face it yet.
Yeah.
And a follow-up question would be, which does happen. So I sign up, or anybody signs up with Concur account with all the credentials you submitted. The bank account changes. Is there a system to go into Toastmasters International to change that details, or I have to submit it to them to change it?
No, the bank account information you put in when you set yourself up. So when you get your welcome letter from me, it tells you to go in and you're using a common password. Please change your password. That's the first thing. Then you can go into your profile to the bank information. If your bank has changed, then go back in there and to change the bank account.
Perfect.
Great.
So yeah, you have that capability.
Good.
Now, some of the questions that I get, and I'm doing an Ask District Finance piece in the newsletter because I get interesting questions. As you know, the policy around cash and cash equivalent cards says we cannot use them under any circumstances. We cannot use them as a club. As a club, we cannot use them. We cannot get reimbursed for them. Nada, nothing, no. And partly because that's a violation of our charter and our nonprofit status. So as we used to do them in the past, we can't do them anymore. And I know for many of you, that's a challenge because it's what you've always done. So I'm challenging you to think of other things that you can purchase as tokens of appreciation for guest speakers or whatever it might be. If you would do, I had one question just recently, could we buy a green screen for new members? And I said, you're doing this as a member drive. You're looking to build your club. Why not make it a challenge for your members? The person who brings in the most amount of members gets a green screen, and that you can send through reimbursement. The other thing was, could we use it to participate in other charities? The answer is absolutely not. We cannot donate money or goods to outside causes or individuals, or individuals at any level of the Toastmasters organization. You can, however, donate to the Ralph C. Smedley Memorial Fund. That is an okay charity for us to be able to expend money for. Something else that people have asked is, can we pay a speaker? In other words, can we set up an educational event and pay a speaker to come in and do that. My sense is it might be a workshop and you want to pay them for the workshop. The answer on that is no, you cannot. What we've been told is you can use this money for educational administrative materials, but under no circumstances will a district pay a speaker's fee. Well, if the district can't pay a speaker's fee, neither can the club. And this is covered under the speaker/product sales agreement that we have with speakers that are at, for example, our district conference. We do not pay speakers. So those are the kinds of things to consider when you're looking at, well, where can I spend my money? What the district would love you to do is to hang on to your money from your district bucks. Oh, let's talk about district bucks. How do we get district bucks? Michelle, has Heart to Heart gotten any incentives yet this year?
Oh, of course. We had our officers all trained. We paid our, we had 11 people, actually we had more than that, pay their dues before a particular date. So we got district bucks for that. And we've done 2 open houses, each of which get $50 a piece. So we have done a number of things that have added to our district bucks kitty.
And you also did the mini success plan.
Oh yes, and we did the mini success plan.
You got money for. Chris, how about your chapter club?
We did win. In fact, that was a very beneficial win because our bank account had fallen below its minimum, and that incentives that we were paid helped us bring the bank account back over its minimum. So we won for several things: the open house, the new members, and paying dues on time. It was great.
Okay, you got paid. Did you get a check?
Yes.
Okay, that must have been at the end of last year. Because we're not writing checks this year.
Erase that.
And that's what we used to do was, at the end of the year, we would look at all the incentives the clubs had won and we wrote checks. And we were told that that is not something that we as a district can do any longer, which is why we have district bucks.
Okay.
It's why we're doing this. And it's also a great way, it's a savings account. You do all these wonderful things and you have that money sitting there so that, like in June of next year, and remember that you have to use your district bucks before June 30th, you can purchase more expensive stuff than if you were just getting little bits here and there and you weren't necessarily saving them in your checking account. Now, Michelle, you had a question about that.
Yes, I want to know what kind of things we can spend our district bucks on. You've mentioned some things we can't spend the district bucks on, but what kind of things can we spend the district bucks on? And maybe some of those things we would want to use before the end of the year.
Absolutely. Things like Zoom accounts. If you have a really robust schedule of meetings, more than can be handled by the district Zoom accounts, then you could purchase a Zoom account. Again, be frugal about what you're purchasing. Make sure that you purchase the plan that you really need, not the one you wish you had, kind of thing. You can also, long term, if you're planning in June to go hybrid, you want to have both an online presence as well as a face-to-face presence, then you might consider things like cameras, lights, microphones, those kinds of things to really enhance that digital meeting that you have. And those are going to cost a bit more money. So by saving your district bucks, you can, in the long run, pay for those kinds of things. Now, what we talked about offline was, what if my bank account doesn't have enough money to pay that? And because you do realize that you have to expend the money, submit a receipt, and then you get paid back. So the recommendation that I have on that is you collect club dues and you collect a certain amount of money each half year for club dues, which you're not using now. You're not using for room rentals or food or anything along those lines. Save that money And then when you have sufficient, you can buy those more expensive items. You submit the receipt to Concur and you get the money back so that the key is you have to fund the first expense. After that, the district bucks will fund it for you.
So what other kinds of things might you want to spend your district bucks on that you could maybe get reimbursed right away? So I think I remember somebody saying Facebook ads to
Exactly.
get people.
Yeah. If you're doing open houses and you really want to up the number of visitors, that's a great place to use the district bucks. I know Bet, our district director, used them for the corporate club extravaganza. She did a Facebook ad for that. She's done a Facebook ad for a number of different things to promote those kinds of events. And they can be very lucrative in the long run for the club as you get more new members coming in. Other thoughts or questions?
Well, it sounds like maybe it's not the treasurer who should be responsible for the district bucks. Maybe it's the president and some of the other people that are involved to make sure that they're sourcing all this information, presenting it to the club, having things done, and then submitting it to district to get reimbursed with the district bucks.
I agree, Chris. One thing I think with the district bucks is that this is a time for the club to be part of the decision-making process as to what are we going to get. You know, you get a windfall of money, you kind of go, what can I do with this? And to have the club be able to be part of that decision-making process, where should we spend our money? And again, if you've been budgeting for this fiscal year, you know, you can also budget for where do we want to spend our district bucks, and really have a hierarchy of this is first, this is second, this is third, and that kind of thing, so that you are spending your bucks the way the club profits from it and really gets an incentive from the money that's coming in. You know, they gain because of what we're doing. It's not just willy-nilly spending money, but it really has a purpose for being there and for where the club is going. What's the vision for the club in, you know, July 2021 as we go into the next year? What is that vision, and how can we support that with district bucks this year? Because we have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And I think it's important for every club member to know where are the opportunity to earn the money. And I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily know that.
There is on the website all of the incentives, and all the incentives that we have currently, as well as you can check on your club's district bucks. There's a little click here, and when you click on that, it will show you the spreadsheet of all the clubs, and you can, you know, zoom in on yours and see what actually has been recorded. And to be honest with you, that's a really good thing to check on a regular basis. We're fallible, we're human. We may have missed one. We may have just not gotten all of the winners up yet. But if you can check on it, make sure that you keep track of what you've submitted for, and then check it against what we have to keep us honest as well. I know we've had a couple of open houses that hadn't quite gotten up before the last decade. We got them up because they were mentioned. I don't see us here. And so, it's a process, and it's just a question of making sure and being our eyes and ears and double checking to make sure that we're getting everything for you, because we really want to give away this money. You know, it's not that we're, being tight-fisted about it. We really want you to be recognized for the things that you're doing for your club. And, however we can do that, that's what Concur is all about. And that's what the District Bucks program is about.
Linda, maybe you could talk a little bit about how you get reimbursed. You incur an expense, you've used your debit card, bank card to purchase something, and now you want to get reimbursed. How do you go about doing that?
The key thing is a receipt, a clear, easily readable receipt. If I cannot pound that into your head, that is the most important thing on all of this. And basically you go in and you start an expense and it walks you through all the pieces that you need to fill out, and then you attach the receipt and send it forward. It comes to me. I look at all of what you did, and if I have any questions or whatever, I'll send it back to you and say, I don't understand this, please explain. If the receipt is not clear or doesn't match what you sent me, I will send you a note that basically says, these two don't match, because I have all of these documents have to go through audit, and I want to make sure that everything is as kosher as it possibly can be. So that's the key thing, is code it appropriately. And I can't tell you specifically what that would look like, but it's intuitive. And then putting in the receipt, the copy of the receipt is vital, and making it readable so that I can read it is also key.
So I want to make a point about that, Linda, because while I was going through the whole process of getting this new club online, there was this problem of signing application forms, and the people had to print it out, and then they needed to scan it in some way once they signed it to get it back. And I'm telling you, I got a variety of weird stuff that was coming back to me. So to really emphasize how important it is, if you have a scanning system, use a scanner. If you don't, you can use your cell phone to take a picture, but take the time to take a good picture.
And to take a complete picture. That's the other thing, is sometimes it's a long receipt and I only get part of it. Make sure that you give me the entire receipt, no matter what that takes. And I found a great way to avoid that with documents. Docusign works wonders, because I took those applications, when I created the applications from your applications, I sent them all through Docusign, and it's crisp, it's clear, and it's actually a very easy process, as long as people pay attention to the notification that they have something that needs to be signed.
So that begs the question, can you have an account with Docusign that's reimbursed by Concur? Because they do charge, they charge over $100 a year.
Well, it depends on how many documents you send through.
No, it doesn't. After you've sent a certain number through, you have to sign up for a paid account.
Right.
That I didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay, we stumped the treasurer.
District Finance. I off the top of my head, I would say yes, but I want to look at that to see.
And you wouldn't want to do that if you're not bringing a whole bunch of new people in, and
Right.
you only do that once in a while. So there are workarounds for it, but yes, in your case, it was great.
Yeah. And it does, you have crisp, clear documents to be able to send forward, and the signatures are all crisp. For a while, Toastmasters International wasn't allowing us to do electronic signatures. With COVID, that policy has changed so that we can use them. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, so I have another question, which isn't going to, maybe we're not ready for this yet, because it is a complication that most treasurers are not going to have to deal with, but some will, because those of us who are volunteers often volunteer for more than one club. So if you're a treasurer of 2 clubs, how does that affect your Concur account?
It's very simple. You can't have 2. You can
Somebody else
have
the other-
one, and some other officer in your club must have the second one.
Because you can only have an account that is attached to one bank account, one club bank account. Is that correct?
No, it has to do with your member number.
I see. But you have to choose which, you still have to assign it to one. You can't have more than 2. I mean, more than one.
You
No.
sign it to the account you wanted the money to go into.
Yeah, I believe you can still put the money in the same account, but like for you, you're the treasurer for 2 different clubs. You're already in Concur with Heart to Heart.
Right.
For Leaders International, Leaders Worldwide, you'll need to choose another officer to be the Concur person, and there will be a different bank account and a different member number for that individual.
So I use Concur a lot in my professional career to track all my expenses, including mileage, which we don't pay mileage
No.
here.
Mm-mm.
So the only question that would remain for a lot of people is what is reimbursable and what isn't? And is there a list, a chart of expenses that can be reimbursable and those that are forgotten?
I have not created one, nor have I necessarily seen one. I can do it. I could create something based on the categories that are in our Concur system. You know, like administration, what falls under administration, what falls under gifts and thank yous, that kind of thing.
So for an example, we talk, 99% of us are using district's Zoom account.
Yes.
If you wanted to do an open house at night and somebody else is already using it and you had to use somebody else's Zoom account, they could be reimbursed for that. Is that correct? Yes, no. Okay. So, you know, that's where it gets fuzzy, because a little while ago you talked about
You could get one that was specifically
for your club.
assigned to your club,
Right.
and that you use it for every meeting that you
okay.
host.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Not the one-off meeting where, oh my God, I've got to use Sally's Zoom account because the district isn't available. No.
Those are the questions that people get in their minds when they start thinking about being reimbursed for something they did for the club.
Well,
And
in
I
some,
think being
sometimes
clear
it's-
about it.
yeah, I think too, Chris, they have to think about when we were face to face,
Mhm.
would I have asked to be reimbursed for this? Because in a lot of cases, you know, in a lot of cases, we expend money for our clubs that we never expect reimbursement for, that we put in our tax return as a business expense,
Right.
or since this is a nonprofit, you know, a nonprofit expense, and we would never have thought of, gee, maybe I could get reimbursed from the club for this. So I also want people to look at it from that perspective of, is it something that you know, under normal circumstances, we're face to face, would I have ever asked the club to reimburse me for this?
Well, at the end of the day, you brought the point up that we have club dues, and club dues are for all the other expenses that we don't get reimbursed for, such as
Right.
if you have an open house, such as if you want to buy whatever.
Right.
That's what that club dues things. And there's many ways to raise it. You can increase the amount of club dues you have, or you, like our club, charges you $1 if you don't say the word of the day. So
I love it.
all in all, there's different ways that you can make it fun. Or, you know, there was another club that used to charge 10 cents for every or ah that was said. And that's how they got their money as well. But I mean, just being clear about what are really just your own club's expenses for fun and what are the things you should be reimbursed.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Chris, for that clarity.
And I just want to make a point again about the importance of saving your club dues to front money for larger purchases, because you cannot get reimbursed until you've expended the money.
Right.
And you cannot get somebody else to front the money, like one of the members, and then get them reimbursed.
Right.
Right. Exactly. And I think the key too is having that club meeting where you talk about what's important this year. What are the things that we want to accomplish? What are the things that we want to be able to do? Where do we want to spend our money? And have that clear picture, because then it makes it easier to look at what do we need to do to fund that? You know, do we need to start a word of the day fund or an counter fund? What do we need to do to grow the club bank account, if indeed we need to do that in order to make that first purchase?
And that's a good discussion that you should have at your executive meeting with all your officers,
Yes.
my opinion.
And I also think it's something that needs to be brought to the membership as well.
Absolutely. After the executive committee brings it up and tosses it around, present it to the full membership.
Okay. So any last questions? Or have we beaten the, no.
I have no last questions.
Okay. I want to thank my guests again, Michelle Pitacolis and Chris Scavani, for being here and for participating in all 3 videos and giving us their wisdom on the wonderful world of finance and treasury. Thank you again and have a great day. Bye-bye.